Hey moms, welcome to the Mom Mindset Show where we talk all things mom life from A to Z. I'm your host, Rachel Benson. I'm a wife, a mom of 6, a grandma of 7, a real estate agent, and a life coach for moms. I've been through every age and stage of motherhood, and I've never met one I didn't like. I've also never met one that didn't come with its share of challenges and personal growth. As moms, we set the mood and tone of the home. We're the emotional support and the cheerleaders for everyone in the house, not to mention the cook, the chauffeur, and the housekeeper. There's a lot to know and do, and that's what I'm here to help with. I want to help you create the home and family life of your dreams, and I do that not only by helping you with the skill set, but more importantly, the mindset that can really help you succeed as a mom. Thanks for being here. Let's talk about what's on your mind today. Hi, Susie. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad you could come and talk to me today. I'm going to let you introduce yourself in a minute, but I just want to tell everyone how I found you and why I asked you to come on the show. I found you through a book you wrote that I read a few weeks ago. And by read, of course, I mean listen to. Not a book reader myself, but I was just so excited about your book because you hit on so many important concepts that I would call mindset. I don't know how you think about them, but I was just like, yes, this woman totally gets it. And then as I looked you up on social media, I found out you were doing what you call world schooling your kids. And I was like, that's so cool. I've never heard of that, except one of our daughters is getting ready to do the same thing. So I wanted to learn more about that. And I just was really excited for you to talk about, especially something, as I looked you up on social media, I found a post where you said you're one decision away from changing your life. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And also a chapter in your book where you talk about following your dreams and desires. So go ahead and introduce yourself and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Rachel. I'm really excited to chat with you. So my name's Susie McGann. We have 5 kids, all boys. Their ages 9 to 2. I teach English as a second or foreign language. I used to teach, I got my master's degree at BYU and taught there as an adjunct professor for a few years. And then 2 years ago, we decided to world school, like you said. We wanted to live abroad, travel, and while we were homeschooling our kids. So we left 2 years ago. We went through Mexico, Ecuador. We're currently in Colombia. And yeah, it's just been a crazy, fun experience.
That all sounds so exciting. And you just told me, so now I know you have twins in there. So tell us the ages of your kids.
Sure. My oldest is 9. He's almost 10. I have an 8-year-old, a 5-year-old, and then the twins just turned 2 in August. And yeah, it's crazy. I never envisioned myself, 1, with all boys and 2 with 5 children. That was more than we were going for, but it has been a journey, and we want to have it any other way. So
isn't it amazing how life turns out like that? My youngest daughter always teases me that I said I wanted 5 children and she's a 6. And I'm like, no, I said I wanted at least 5 children. That was a minimum that I was going for. And so, I wouldn't have it any other way. And it's amazing how life just works out like it's supposed to. So let me share. So this Instagram post where you said you're one decision away from changing your life, that kind of thinking just makes my heart sing. And I just think planning and decision making and those high level mental skills, if we can acquire those as moms and just be confident in our decisions that we make and know that we can plan, that we're not at the mercy of whatever life throws at us. I think that was kind of my way of thinking as a younger mom. And so things felt maybe more chaotic than they needed to. And so when you said that, I was just like, yes, preach. So I want you to talk about the decision that you made to first homeschool and then world school. I just love that term. I'd never heard that. I couldn't get over it. But this is just a little part of that post, what you said that I really liked. You said that one life-changing moment started when I dared to listen to my desires rather than my fears. I believe our desires are sacred and are born in our hearts for a reason. So take us back to that. You were referencing starting to homeschool take us back to that and just tell us everything, like how you got from there to here.
Okay, sure. I want to share this. When I when I became a mom, I had an idea of what it would be like, which is very different when I actually was living it. It was really hard for me to transition to mom life. I had never taken care of children before. I had never taken care of babies. And so I found myself at home with an infant and just not knowing what to do. It was just such an identity crisis. But I felt like I really remember thinking this, like, okay, my life is over for the next 25 years. Everything just needs to be put on pause.
Yeah.
I am doing this. Like I knew I had wanted to go to graduate school, but I thought that would come after the kids were out. I knew I wanted to write a book. I thought that would come after the kids were grown up. My husband and I talked about traveling would be while we were dating, and I just didn't see a way to do it because I had such limited thinking, like you were saying. Like I thought I had to fit into this mold, and that this mold had like certain, limitations and had to look a certain way. And I really just felt like that's what I had to do. And it took me a long time to dare to ask myself, Susie, what do you want? What life do you want? And once I allowed myself to ask that question, so many doors opened the possibilities. And like I said in that post, like I believe the desires in our hearts are sacred. They are there to drive us towards our divine mission on this earth, to allow us to share our strengths and talents unlimitedly with other people. But when we put those restrictions on ourselves and these limited mindsets, then we can't do all that God wants us to do. So
Totally agree. Yeah. Keep
when I, yes. So when my oldest was 5, I had 2 younger children. I was working part-time at BYU. And I just thought of all of the reasons why I shouldn't homeschool. I wasn't a perfect mom. I had a hard time getting through the day without getting frustrated or losing it or feeling overwhelmed. I didn't know if I had the time to do all of these activities I wanted to do. I didn't know if my son would like it. Maybe he wanted to go to school and he would hate me for keeping him at home. So I had all of these reasons why I shouldn't do it. And I was kind of investigating it. My sister was homeschooling, so I was talking to her a lot and listening to other women and why they had chosen to homeschool. And all of a sudden, I just had this thought in my heart was just like, Susie, what do you want? And when I asked myself that, I knew without a doubt, like, I want to homeschool. I want that lifestyle. I want a family-centered life. And so once I decided, like, that was a worthy reason in and of itself to just do it because I wanted to do it. And then I said, okay, let's go. And so once I made that step, it just opened so many other doors for me because I saw that I had the power to create the life of my dreams and that I really could do it. And even though I wasn't the person who I felt was capable of doing that, I could become that person. And that's my journey with Christ, is that he is helping me become the person of my dreams and creating the life of my dreams. And that's what led me to write my book, You on Purpose, is because I want to share that with other people. Like, it's not that Christ is not the one keeping us in the mold. That's not Christ. He's the one taking those limits away. And he is the one who is helping us do all things through him. And I'm so grateful.
That's a beautiful way to say it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I want you to keep sharing, but I think a lot of times when we think about Jesus Christ, we think about him taking away our pain and easing our burdens and helping us forgive and those kind of, I don't know how to say it, but that's more like the negative side. And I've also believed what you're saying is through him we have joy, through him we can live our desires and our dreams, and that is our soul speaking to us when we feel a desire and we limit ourselves so much more than we need to, I think, because we're just like, I'm not the one, it's not the season, there's no way, I don't have the money, I don't have the time, I don't have the bandwidth, like we just, we limit ourselves in so many ways. So I really love what you're saying. So sorry to interrupt, but continue. So then your 5-year-old, you decide to homeschool.
Yeah, so we decided to homeschool and then I started asking myself the other questions. Well, I want to live abroad. Like, how can we make that happen. And so once I started changing my mindset and being like, hey, what is the life I want to create and how can I get there? Then I started being able to move forward on that and seeing the pieces come together. And I really believe that, I feel like, as women, especially as moms, we struggle with this a lot because we have these desires that we want to do, but we feel like they're selfish. Like, I can't do what I want because that's going to take away from my children or my house or my husband. And those are our primary responsibilities. And I think more than anything, especially as a mom, you want to have a happy family. But I don't think that they are in conflict. And I don't think they have to be in conflict. I think if you pursue your desires as the world tells you to, then they might be in conflict. But that's not what you have to do. You can partner with Christ and he will help you find the way to do it in a way that is going to expand you and expand your family and bring you closer to him. So
yes, absolutely.
So I started asking myself, okay, how can we do this? How can we create this? We started moving forward. My husband and I flew down to Mexico to find a place for us to live. I was pregnant at the time with my fourth pregnancy. So we met a midwife down there. She was a Mayan midwife. And I was so excited to give birth with her because you give birth in a hammock. And I was like, oh, that's going to be the awesomest experience.
Oh, amazing.
We got home from our trip. I got COVID. I got super sick. My husband's job fell through. We had no money coming in. And then I went to the doctor, my first checkup for my pregnancy, and we found we were expecting twins.
Wow.
I just felt like my whole life had just crashed. And again, on that thing, what I wanted, like I was moving forward on creating this. Why is all of these things falling through? And this was brought me to another truth that I've learned. You are a creator, but you are also a co-creator with Christ. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes he lets you lead and move through, and other times he takes the wheel. And I think that is what I'm learning to do life. It's like, okay, when am I leading? When am I letting him lead? And learning how to manage that relationship always. So we decided not to move. That was not the time to move to Mexico. We stayed in the States to have the twins. Luckily, it turned out to be a very healthy, low-risk pregnancy. I was able to birth at home. They were born at 40 and a half weeks pregnancy. And during that time,
wow.
Those crushing months, I was so pregnant, Rachel. Like, it was not a fun sight to see how huge
I feel that.
Half weeks pregnant. But I asked my God, I was like, why am I here? I know I have this desire in my heart to move abroad. Like, why isn't it coming to fruition? And I just felt, write that book. So during those months of pregnancy, when I really couldn't do much else, I was writing my book. I finished it a week before they were born, submitted it to a publisher. And then when they were 4 months old, we did move to Mexico and was able to move on with those things. So I have just learned, like, don't give up on your desires. If you move forward and, life's taking you another way, just keep working with it because all of your dreams and fruitions will come true. It's a partnership with Christ. And I think as you partner with him, he is going to help you create something truly beautiful and truly unique. It's not going to look like anyone else's, but it's going to be amazing and so much more amazing than you could ever even imagine.
Yeah. So did the whole Mexico thing start to make sense, or did you come to peace with that? Like why it didn't work out at that time and then it did?
I mean, it was hard, really crushing because I had wanted it so bad and I had felt like I had worked for so long, but the things really weren't coming together. I even just tried to get hold of the Mexican consulate to get our visas. They weren't returning my calls, an appointment. But then compared to a year later when we tried again, they answered my call. We got right in. We were able to get our flights. We got out of our house. We found a renter for our house. Like my husband's job came through. So I just do feel like the timing was much better at that time.
Yeah.
And we were able to start to deal. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Which if I had I would not have been able to write. So
yeah. Yeah, I love how things work out like that. Like you start on one path and you think you're going a certain way and then you're like, oh, wait a minute. for whatever reason, this just isn't flowing. It isn't working. And I just think you know that. I love how you just showed that you paid attention to your instincts and the clues you were getting from life. And you made the most of that time by writing a book when you were sitting there pregnant with twins. Although I really wanted to hear about you giving birth to twins in a hammock, but that didn't happen. It wasn't meant to be.
Next life, I guess.
But you gave birth at home, so that is you got like part of that dream, right? That is amazing. So then your first stop was Mexico.
So yeah, then we went to Mexico. We were there for 6 months. We were planning on staying for a year, but we decided to stay for 6 months. Then we went to Colombia for 6 months, then Ecuador for 6 months. And then we recently came back to Colombia, and we're planning on staying here for a year or so. So I don't know. We're just still kind of winging it.
So tell me what that's like day to day. Like, is it easier to live in Colombia, or like what's the story with that?
Yes. So, and this is another thing that I have learned about, moving forward on your dreams. Like you had talked about some of like the limitations we put on ourselves when we're young mothers. Like we just have so many things tasking us, like a household to take care of. We feel so overwhelmed. Like it's hard for us to take time to dream and to imagine a different way. But I have learned that there really are solutions to our problems. Like we can find them. Like for me, I don't feel like any of my innate talents are directed to domestic work. So like that does not, I don't know. It's been something really hard for me. But because we have moved abroad, I am able to pay for a housekeeper to come to my home, do my laundry, to clean my house, to cook food. And that has just been a huge lifestyle change for me. Like it has able me to become the mom I want to be, because I'm able to spend time how I want to spend it with my kids. And so anyway, that's why I think too, going back to myself when I was younger, like a younger mom, and I just felt I had all these unsolvable problems and I felt so trapped. I wanted to tell myself, you can find solutions to these problems. Like even if I hadn't moved abroad, like if I didn't want to do the laundry, like maybe I could do a laundry swap with another mom friend, or, hire my 7-year-old neighbor to come over and put my laundry in or something.
Yeah.
You can find creative solutions to your problems. But following that desire to move abroad has actually like opened up so many more possibilities. And we are really just being able to live more of a life that I have always wanted to live.
So we have so amazing.
Yeah.
All the moms out there are now making plans to move to Colombia. They're like, so instead of doing the dishes and laundry and the cooking, I assume you spend more of your time like with the kids doing their schooling and stuff like that.
Yeah, so my 2 oldest kids go to a homeschooling co-op. There's actually a large homeschooling community here in Colombia, which has been really awesome.
So the Americans are Colombians?
Colombians. There's a large expat group as well, but most of them do go to, other schools here. But there's a large Colombian homeschool community. So they go to a homeschooling co-op 3 days a week in the morning. So during that time, that allows me to kind of do my personal work and personal projects. And then in the afternoons, I do our other homeschool with them and go on play dates with the kids, or just how I can be as engaged a mom as possible, because I love spending time with my kids. And my main goal in my life is to have a loving, united family. So I'm just able to more creatively use that time in order to do that.
Okay. So, and does your husband work from home?
He does. He works from home. So he's location dependent as well. That was another thing that we worked several years to get to, because we knew we had wanted to move abroad. So he could work remotely. So that's also allowed us to kind of move around, live in different places, not having to be tied down to one spot.
Yeah. So just a quick question, then we'll move on. But was your husband always wanting to do the same things, or was this like you driving it, or how do you guys how did you come to the same conclusion? This was the thing to do and the time to do it.
Yes. So it was 100% me driving it. This was definitely my dream that I had. And it was one I shared with him when we were dating. I said, hey, I really want to live abroad. I love traveling. When I had traveled before getting married, I had seen other expat families living abroad with their kids. I was like,
Uh-huh.
yeah, I want to do that, you know? So he was on board with that. Like, he's like, yeah, like that sounds fun. But then once we
Mhm.
got married, we just didn't know how to do it. We,
Uh-huh.
he had an office job and then, I had started teaching too, working, and we just didn't see the way through. Like, we were like, well, maybe if you get a job with an international company and they send you to their international office, like it took a long time for us to figure out how to do it. But then once we
Mhm.
started finding, world schooling communities or other world schooling families, we're like, okay, like we can do this, we can make this happen. And so we just kind of put the things together. But I also think that, and that's going to be a marriage dynamic. Always someone's going to have a desire that's going to be stronger than another person. But
Mhm.
it has definitely strengthened our marriage as I have, been like, hey, this is something I really want to do. Let's find a way to do it.
Mhm.
And it's also
Mhm.
put me in a place where I am, more willing and accepting to support him in his dreams and his goals and desires. So we have, through this time, developed this, respect and understanding for each other. Hey, like, I am here to support you in what you want to create. So he has always wanted to be an entrepreneur and create his,
Mhm.
companies and jobs. So we found the way to be like, okay, well, if we move to South America, the cost of living's lower. So then you
Mhm.
can have more freedom as the provider to experiment more with your work situations. I can get the experience I want of, having this international adventure. So we just kind of
Mhm.
found a way to combine what we both wanted and find we can do it.
Yeah, I love that because I think sometimes people think it's a negative when husband and wife are not like you didn't marry yourself. So I like to think of it as we complement each other, but sometimes people see that relationship dynamic as really problematic. And I think I'm more like you. I'm more of a like go getter, risk taker. Let's do this thing. I know it sounds crazy, but let's go for it. And my husband is like we have real estate investments. And if I'm like, I really think we should buy this house, um, which it's not like we buy houses every day, but we've bought a number of them and bought and sold a number of them over the years. And he's learned to trust me. Like the first just little house we bought for us, he was like terrified to buy a house. I was like, no, honey, it's gonna totally work out. There's a basement apartment that pays like 2/3 of the mortgage. And and I literally think our first mortgage was like $175, our part of it. But he was so scared to like take that step. And I had to like help him see how it was going to work out. And I'm like, we can sell it if it doesn't work out. And, but since then, since we got into real estate investing and everything, he'll be like, okay, let me put the numbers in a spreadsheet. And I'm getting to a point with this, but that's our dynamic that actually at times when he puts the numbers in a spreadsheet, I'm like, I really think this is a good option and we should go for it. I really feel strongly about this. And then he does his spreadsheet magic. And I'm like, oh, on paper, yeah, that's a different situation. And like I'm getting all emotionally invested. They say you're not supposed to get emotionally invested in investments, but I always do. And but then his spreadsheet skills and my like risk taking, like it's really, really complementary and it's really led us to great decisions, great experiences. And I know one big thing in a lot of marriage dynamics is there's people like you and me who are super into like self improvement. They're like, my spouse does not care about not that they don't care about taking care of themselves and improving themselves, but they just don't have the same approach to life. It's totally fine. I just want all the moms out there to know it's totally fine. Like they have their things that they do that support the family and you have your way. And if you think of it as like, how can we complement each other and work together? You can just do so much more than you could alone or fighting against each other or thinking they're a spender, I'm a saver. That's a problem. No, those things, both of those things happen in a family and you need to like figure out how to make it work together. So I just love that you guys were like, hey, we can do this, and it's a risk and you can always undo things. Like nothing is permanent, right? If this ever wasn't working for you guys, I assume you could make other plans pretty quickly, right?
Right. Yes, definitely.
Yeah. that's neat that you guys work that out together. And I just think it speaks to like opening the door in your mind. Just, I'm not even talking about hardcore goal setting. I'm talking about like, ooh, this would be fun. And like, you get on Instagram or wherever you go to find other world schooling families and like, how do other people do this? And just like, let it simmer. And then sometime I think the door just opens and you just walk through and it's like life just flows. Like when you were trying to walk through that door the first time, to Mexico, it didn't work, but then other things did. And then now
Yeah.
here you are. I love that. It's so beautiful. So tell me, like, have there been some big challenges for you guys, or like it wasn't like you thought, and you're like, what are we doing at certain points? Or like, how have you faced the challenges? Have you ever been like, it'd be so much easier to live a normal life like my sister? Or, I don't know who else you have in your life, but tell me about the moments when it's hard, or I don't know. Just tell me how you deal with the challenges.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, there's definitely challenges with living a nomadic lifestyle. One, you just are constantly researching what to do next, where to go next, how the process works, especially if you're switching countries, because every country has different qualifications to get your visa, how long you can stay, how much it costs you to get it. So that can be very stressful. And then once you get to that country, you have to learn where the grocery stores are, how you get the phone plans. If you're going to school, what you're going to do for schooling, how to get a car, how to get around. So there's a, curve before you get there and then a lot of time invested after you get there. So that's been the biggest challenge for us. Even though we do slow mad, we're at least 6 months in the country, but ultimately we decided to stay longer in Colombia so we can kind of, spread out the stressful moving times and kind of thrive a little bit more in like our work or the kids' school. Another challenge we faced is not, being far from family. When we lived in Utah prior by a lot of their cousins, a lot of my sisters, a lot of our parents. And so that's been hard. And our kids have felt homesick. I'm missing those things. This year we're going to be here for the holidays. So those are the challenges. But going back to that, like I'm trying to find creative solutions to those problems as well. So I paid for all of our cousins to have Nintendo Live, so they can all get on the Switch and play Nintendo, once a week together.
That's fun.
So I'm just trying to find other ways that we can connect with our family, but from a distance. And thankfully, there are so many ways that you can do that.
I know. It's such a blessing. This modern world. I love it.
Yes. Another thing that I've thought a lot about this topic, Rachel, that you've wanted to talk about today, was just like your desires and listening to those and following them. I really think that anyone can categorize your desires into two groups. Your core desires, which I believe are God-given, they're innate. You're born with them. And I think that those are hints and guides to lead you to your divine mission here. And then your other desires are mimetic desires, which are highly influenced by...
Just say that again.
Mimetic.
I haven't heard that word before.
Yeah, to like mimic, right? So our desires are highly influenced by those around us, what other people are wanting. So if you live in a neighborhood and everyone goes by, a side-by-side, all of a sudden you're like, ooh, side-by-side seems really nice. Like maybe we should get one of those. So, or you're following a lot of people who, have just bought a homestead and you're like, oh, homestead life out. Maybe that's what we should do. So you're highly influenced by the desires of other people. And I think to really live your authentic life and to really build a life that you are happy with, that really is going to fulfill you, you need to live one guided by your core desires and not your mimetic desires. So you need to spend time trying to discern between the two. And I currently had this situation just a few weeks ago because my husband and I are starting to launch this new business idea. And I had this inner conflict because I'm like, am I, do I feel good about this? Like, I want to do this, but I just felt like it was for the wrong reasons. And as I dug into it more, I'm like, yeah, I am being led right now by my mimetic desires, to be really successful, to make a lot of money, to be really well known. And I said, that's not going to lead me into feeling satisfied. And it's going to lead me to make choices that are actually going to hurt my core desires. And so I had to spend some time, like I put like all of my work on hold to spend some time sifting through that to get to a place where I am in line with what I really want, which are my core desires. And so now I'm still moving forward on our business idea. Like that's not changing, but my motivation for doing it has. And so now I'm able to create and to work and to act from a place where I feel at peace, I feel confident, and I feel really hopeful because I know that this is a step taking me closer to what I really want to create. And so as I've kind of started this journey of kind of living a desire-led life, this is the next step that I'm learning, is to discern between these two types of desires and to make sure that I'm coming from a place of working on my core desires where I know are going to lead me to what I really want and creating the life of my dreams.
That's amazing. Yeah. And so you're still doing the same thing, but energetically it's a lot different, a lot more aligned with what you feel is, I don't know, I guess you could say your life mission, or it'll allow you to do the thing in a way that feels just aligned for you and your core desires. Am I understanding that right?
Yes, exactly. And so, I mean, for me, my top one desire is I want to create a united and loving family. And so, but I also have a lot of ambitions that go beyond, being at home or working in my home. And so it's like, how do I balance that? And I think a lot of women have that same complex. Like if I do anything that's not directly child or motherhood related, am I letting my family down? Am I not helping that goal? But these core desires are there to help you become your best self and lead your best life and to share your gifts with the world that God has given you and created for you. So you can't deny those desires and turn them off. Like you as a child of God have to listen to those and have to be led by them and follow them. And I believe as you do that and as you have the courage and faith to do that, then you will be led to create this abundant life that is overfilling. And it doesn't feel, limited or secluded. And so, and that's what I've been finding is I have these desires to create these things, to create these businesses and the communities. But how can I do this in a way that is being true to the gifts God has given to me and the path He wants me to create? And as I stay true to that and those desires, then my desire of having a loving family and being a very engaged mom, those can come together hand in hand.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. I want to speak to kind of what you're saying there. Partly, one thing I have talked and written a lot about is just like to everything there is a season, and in motherhood, you 100% need to balance that with your kids' needs, because when you are like an ambitious, creative person, like sometimes I don't know, the kids can end up feeling like an annoyance or distraction. I'm sorry, kids, like out there, but sometimes, you can feel like, oh, I just want to, move forward with this personal thing or this big thing. And it's just not the season. Like years ago, I mean, I've always wanted to have my own store. I started, my first job was working in a little dancewear store, and I've always worked in sales, and I love like thrift shopping and consignment and stuff like that. And I've always wanted to have my own store, and I still do. But like, back in 2009, we were seriously looking into it, and I just, went far enough down that road that I was like, okay, got to make a decision here. And then I just was like, it's not the time. My oldest was going into his senior year, and he, was behind in school. And I was like, I really need to and want to put all my focus on helping him get through his senior year. And I just put that way on the back burner. And just like yesterday, it was 2023, I got a proposal from a franchise that I'm like, now I'm reconsidering it. I'm like, is now the time? And I've had all this added experience, but I mean, that's a huge time span. Maybe back in 2009, if I'd had the mindset tools and if the world was like it is now, where there's so many opportunities, like you have, maybe I could have figured it out. But maybe it just, it wasn't right for my life and I stood by that. But consciously going down that road and then saying, no, what I want to prioritize right now, it's getting my son through his senior year. I was like, all middle class kids graduate from high school. that was my thinking back then, and I'm glad I did. And it turned out to be a good year for us. Because I ended up helping him at home with a lot of his credits that he needed to make up, and we actually had a lot of fun, and it was great. So there's a balance between like, is this the season, and is this the right way and time to go about this? And just know that life does go by fast, but sometimes opportunities, they'll be, your desires will be there, the opportunities will be there, and just let it simmer until the right time. And there's just that beautiful balance between like, should I move forward with this? And also knowing that yes, I have a choice, and yes, I'm choosing, like I was choosing my son and his senior year and graduation over that store at that time. And now if I choose to do the store thing, it will be a different experience, and I will be so much more experienced in sales and real estate and different things. I don't know if I'm going to do it, but I'm just saying, like, it's still there, that desire. And I have this crazy, I've always wanted to have a line of swimwear. Don't ask me why. I don't know. But I'm just letting it simmer. And every once in a while, some ideas will come to me, some downloads of like how I can make that happen. How my kids are grown now, so I can do whatever I want. But anyway, I love how you were like, this isn't feeling right. And then you're like reconsidered it and found a way that feels like the right way to move forward right now. I love what you're saying there. So we should wrap up pretty soon, but I just want to ask, like, do you have any like how do you go through that process of like grounding yourself and like saying, okay, is this coming from my core or my mimetic? I love that word. I've never heard that, but my mimetic desires, like, where's this coming from? And how do you like ground yourself and like get in tune with what is right for you?
Yeah, so I think it does take some time sometimes. So be honest, get to the self where you can be honest with yourself and really say, oh, I really just want this because, I want to be really cool, or, this for some like superficial reason. Or you can say like, no, like this is something that's deeper than that. And I really think that this is what I need to do. It does take time. So be patient with that and like enjoy the struggle. Like that's part of the growth process is, going back and forth, writing in your journal all of the feelings that you have or the reasons that you're thinking of, praying, connecting with like your spiritual side and what am I feeling spiritually? As you go through this process, it helps you develop self-awareness so you can kind of know yourself more and more quickly identify, yes, this is aligned with who I am and the person that I am wanting to become versus, no, this really isn't going to take me to the place that who I want to be. So I think just being patient with yourself and knowing it's a process, allowing yourself to have space to wrestle with it and being humble enough to check yourself sometimes, is this, do you want to double think this? In my book, I talk a lot about the importance of, having that relationship, that spiritual relationship with, having your Heavenly Father, with Jesus. That can be your compass and your guide. Developing your self-awareness.
That's super important to me too.
Yes, I think that all of those tools are there to kind of help you stay true to that light. And then once you have that, confirmation or you're just like, hey, like this is what I want. I don't feel like there's any other reason why not to just move forward. Maybe you did get something wrong, but as you move forward, that will become obvious to you. So I think it's a process of trial and error as well, but one it's worth taking a step.
Yeah. And I just want to bring up a couple things for all the moms out there that are like, yeah, there's no way I could move forward with this other big thing I want to do or whatever. A couple things. When I went to life coach school, at the end of it, Brooke Castillo, who's like to me the queen mother of life coaching, she said to us, I went live. A lot of people go online or whatever, but Brooke, who runs Life Coach School, is there. And she said, "What are your concerns?" And everyone started raising their hands and talking about the things they were scared of, like with moving forward with a career in life coaching. And I was like, I'm just so afraid I'll neglect my kids, which is funny because by this time my youngest had graduated from high school. But still, I was a stay-at-home mom for 25 years. Like I did other things in real estate here and there and stuff, but for the most part, I was a stay-at-home mom. And she goes, "You just decide. I will never neglect my children." And I was like, oh my gosh, she's right. What I will neglect is like I have never neglected my children. Literally, my children are the most unneglected children you'll ever find. And I was like, what I will neglect is me and my dreams and my things I want to do. And I hope I'm saying this well because it just really deeply impacted me when she said, "You just decide. I'll never neglect my children. Like if it comes down to it, I'm doing this other thing that I want to do, whether it's my life coaching or my real estate or my store or whatever, like I won't." And, when your children are grown, it looks a little bit different how you would neglect them or not. But that was really impactful for me. And I think it's really important for moms to realize, no, I'm not going to do that. If that's one of your worries about doing the thing, even the fact that you're worried about it is that you are not the type that's ever going to just neglect your children. And you really don't know what will be the result of anything you do, whether you're the most devoted stay-at-home mom playing Play-Doh and, doing all the things, being totally in your kids' lives and their business and their best friend, or you're kind of you're a career mom, you're doing all these big things. I heard Joanna Gaines, I don't know if you know who Joanna Gaines is once. She's very, very successful on a million different fronts, and she was like, I think it's good for our kids to see us working this hard and seeing that you can build what you want to build. And I was like, that's a good perspective too, because I see all the things she does in real estate and retail, and she has books and she has magazines, and she has multiple TV shows. And I don't know, I'm just like, that life's not for me. That's too many things. But I'm sure her assistants have assistants, and then they also have a farm and 5 kids. And I'm like, how does that all work? But anyway, I thought she made a good point. Like our kids see us like working towards our dreams. So that's good too. So I just think, again, it's finding that balance, finding your spiritual guidance. One thing for me is if I'm considering doing something, I remember like one house in particular that we were about to make an offer. We made an offer or something on investment property that we were going to fix up. And I just like woke up screaming in the night, not literally screaming, but I was just like really unsettled. And I've come to know that feeling as like, no, this is not the way forward. And I just couldn't talk myself into it or whatever. Then I think those kind of things I've come to know as like putting the brakes on something. But, you have to go like partway down that road sometimes to know if it's right for you. So we should wrap up and tell people where to find you. But I really want to recommend your book, You on Purpose, if moms are like wanting to get some really good, I call it mindset stuff. I don't know how you would.
That's perfect.
But that kind of thinking that's just expansive, that lets you know that like, yeah, I can be that stay-at-home mom. That's all I want is just be here, be with my kids, keep life simple, or I can do, a Joanna Gaines life. So anyway, so let them know where to find you, and just anything else you want to add before we wrap up.
Sure. So you can find me on Instagram, Susie McGann. I also have a website, susiemcgann.com, where you can learn more about my book, a little bit more about me.
Tell them how to spell Susie and McGann.
Oh, sure. So Susie is Susie, McGann, McGann.
Okay.
My book's first on Amazon. It's on sale at Cedar Fort. But yeah, I'd love to connect with more people. Find me on social media. And thank you so much, Rachel, for having me. This was a really fun conversation.
Yeah, it's absolutely my pleasure. And your book is on Audible for all those that just want to listen to books. You did a really good job of narrating it. That's so inspiring to me because I'm also working on a book right now, and that's a whole big thing. So I know there's so many moms out there that want to write a book or a romance or a children's book or a book, a self-help book. And again, you're a great example of how that can be done while world schooling or I guess sitting home being pregnant with twins in America, but whatever.
Oh yeah.
There's still a lot more to it after you write the actual book. But anyway, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. It was fun getting to talk to you. Hey Mama, thanks for listening to the show today. If you enjoy the ideas I share on my podcast, but you want some help applying them to your personal situation, I want to invite you to learn more about my coaching program, where I talk to moms on a personal basis through one-on-one coaching and group calls. We can talk about anything from the personal challenges that you're experiencing in marriage or motherhood to the goals and dreams that you have for yourself. To find out more and download a copy of my free book, Mom Mindset A to Z, visit mom-mindset.com. I'd love to see you there.